Well, currently he's under our veterinary's observation, or it's actually a female. She did suffer 2 gunshot wounds, as well as she has some abrasions on her. We were told that she was also hit by a police car while there, and so our veterinarian has treated the wounds. Currently she's stable and under the care of our vet staff.
What's the size of the dog?
She's a large pit bull, probably 80 or 90 pounds. So she's a very large pit bull type dog.
Do you know what the size was of the dog that was shot by police? What the size of that dog was?
It was also a pit bull type dog, and it was also a very, very large dog, around 100 pounds or over 100 pounds.
Okay. Is the dog, what's the status of the dog? The dog is evidence, considered evidence, right?
Yes, currently we're just holding the dog pending on what happens as far as the police officer's investigation that's handling the case.
Can you talk to how many times animal welfare has been maybe called to the residents or in this neighborhood for these 2 dogs? Is there a history with these 2 dogs that you're aware of?
We do have a small history with these 2 dogs. We're still in the process of researching that, so I don't know the exact number. I do know that we have received calls in that neighborhood for these 2 dogs before.
Do dogs have to be licensed with the city or with animal welfare, rabies, shots, all that type of stuff? Do you know if these had followed that type of protocol?
We do not have a licensing program here in Oklahoma City. We do have a rabies requirement that is a state law. At this time, we're still that's still pending. Right now, the police department's doing their investigation, and so we haven't been able to speak with the owner at this point.
What kind of recommendations do you have regarding if someone sees like a loose dog like on the street and they happen to just be on the street walking the dog? What recommendations do you have for those pet owners?
Well, obviously, the first thing is to report it to us. If they happen to do be involved in an attack, call 911. Police are able to respond and get to the scene a lot quicker than we are. And so if you do fear that you are in danger or your animal's in danger of bodily harm, then definitely call 911 first, and that will trigger a police response typically, and then our officers will then respond as well.
What is the protocol if you do get a complaint about a possible dangerous dog or dogs in a neighborhood? You guys obviously go and visit the house?
Correct. When we receive the calls of a potential dangerous animal, it is a priority 1 call for our officers, and so we respond as soon as we are able to respond. We try to visit with owners if we have an owner available. If the dog happens to be running loose when we're there, we do make every effort to try and capture the animal.
At what point do you say we have to get these dogs out of the home, away from the neighborhood?
There is criteria that have to be met in order to be what we would refer to as a dangerous animal charge. And so we have to look at the situation and then evaluate whether or not that criteria has been met for a dangerous animal charge. If it has, then at that point in time we will impound the dog, and then it'll be held here in the shelter pending the court case.
Do you know if these dogs were ever charged with attacking another animal prior to this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is it animal welfare is it's involved in are there leash laws or types of laws within the city limits, and is animal welfare in charge of enforcing those, or is that police? Whose jurisdiction is that for?
Yes, there are leash laws that forbid people from allowing their dogs to run loose. Our officers are responsible for enforcing those laws, and they do.
Well, what are the fines, or are there fines or citations that are given out then?
Yes, there is a citation that we issue. They're approximately about $177. The judge actually will set the fine.
Okay. Can you go over any of the city's municipal code as far as vicious animals, any breeds that are on there, if Oklahoma City even has an ordinance dealing with vicious animals?
We do have that's considered a dangerous animal, and Oklahoma City does have an ordinance that prevents people from harboring dangerous animals or owning dangerous animals, and so there is no breed specifics in that. It really refers to the animal and their individual actions of that animal.
how can owners, like if they own this type of, let's say like a pit bull or something like that, that have like a kind of aggressive nature, what can they do in order like to kind of minimize their kind of aggressive instincts? What can they do regarding that matter?
Well, for any owner, the most important thing is keeping your dog confined, and that's whether you think that he may pose a threat or not. It's you have a responsibility as an owner to ensure the safety of not only the community but your own pet as well. And so, keeping the animal confined, make sure your fence is secure, repairing any damage that may be to your fence, and keeping up with maintaining your property to ensure that the animal does not get loose.
Are you speaking specifically about temperaments of animals in general, and dogs in general? Or are you trying to specifically talk about bully breeds? And that, because there's been multiple studies that have said that bully breeds aren't necessarily more inherently violent. It's all dependent upon how the animal is raised or trained, or lack thereof.
Yes, you have to look at the animal as an individual, and that's what we do whenever we work these cases. We don't focus on the breed. We focus on the behavior of that particular dog and what the incident that particular animal did. We do see a lot of pit bull cases, but pit bulls make up about 25% of the animals that we see here in our shelter. So they're a large part of the population, and so therefore we do work a lot of cases on them. But we also work on German Shepherds and Rottweilers and many other types of breeds. So we tend to focus on the act of the animal, not the breeding specifically.
What kind of charges can the owners of these two dogs face?
On our end, potentially could be a dangerous animal charge at that point, or at this point in time, that decision has not been made. Like I said, there's still an investigation that's ongoing, and the police department we are standing by, waiting to wherever they decide. So I can't really speak to what the police department, what their plans are at this point. I do know they're still in the middle of a big investigation on it.
Do you know what kind of charges they could face from the police department?
I could not speak to that. You'd have to talk to the police department on that.
Now, our reporter was handed a flyer that was printed out last year. They told us it was concerning these two dogs that had previously attacked another neighborhood animal. I'm not sure what the status of the animal was, but I'm assuming you would also suggest to any neighbors, if your dog is attacked, to also report that?
Absolutely.
That would go in the history of these animals?
Absolutely, yes. Anytime your dog is involved in an attack of another by other animals, you should definitely report it to us. We have a job to do and to try to help keep the community safe, but we can't do that if we don't know about it. And so I think it's important that anytime your animal is involved in some incident like this, that you inform us.
Should they inform you first, or should they call 911?
Obviously, if they're in immediate danger, they should call 911 and try to. The police, like I said, the police they're emergency responders. They're able to get there a lot sooner than we are, and so the first option is to call 911, and then the police department will be on route a lot quicker than we are able to.
I'm specifically talking about if your pet is attacked, not specifically you.
I think even if your pet is attacked, if the attack is current and happening at that moment, the right thing to do would be call 911, and then the dispatcher will ensure whoever the proper person to respond is there.
I want to clarify, did you say that there have been calls for service regarding these two dogs?
We have, and at this point in time, I can't tell you the exact number. I have my staff currently doing a research on any history there may be.
Do you happen to recall like how long it usually takes for like these kind of reports to be completed and charges to be filed?
It varies. On our end, if it was just a dangerous animal case, we usually can wrap it up in a day or two. I can't really speak as far as the police matter.
About how long, would you say on average it takes for one of your animal control officers to arrive after receiving one of these calls, assuming that it's a high priority call?
If it's a current attack that's taking place, our first available officer will head that way. Depending on where they're at in the city, it could be anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. It really depends on where they're at. Our officers, we typically only have about 6 to 10 officers in the field each day, depending on the day of the week. And so, depending on their availability, it would be how quickly we'd be responding to a call like this.
And how quickly was animal welfare notified about this? Were you called immediately, or was it after the fact, after one of the animals had been, as far as this case, this mauling?
The police were called right out, and they were the first to respond. And then we had an officer that responded shortly after. I'm not exactly sure on the time that they arrived, how quickly they arrived afterwards.